no-shitter. 1966, East China Sea. I'm standing watch, forward engine room, the USS Tairu, SS 416, one of the last of the Navy's smoke boats. We're heading south from Chinhae, Korea, heading to some secret somewhere to do some other secret something. And I'm rocking and rolling, standing watch, with the motion of the ocean. Number 1 engine's running, roaring away. Number 3 and 4 back aft, they're roaring away. And I'm hot, I'm tired, and I'm not getting any Z's anytime soon. I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm pissed. Hell, the whole crew's pissed. Our 6-month deployment from Pearl Harbor has just been extended not only from 7 months to 8 months. So morale, fore and aft, brown shoe and black shoe alike, is headed past test depth and headed for the bottom. So nobody's talking to anybody. No eye contact's made, we're just going through the motions. It's gonna be a while before this shit news wears off. And I'm wondering, because I got a lot of time to wonder here, got a lot of time to reminisce and ruminate. How is it, just how is it that I have wound up here? What trick of fate, birth, geography, luck, hell, fuck, how did I get here? The trail leads back to Cleveland, Ohio, the shores of Lake Erie. That's where I was brought up. About 1950, around there. And I'm fishing on the shores of Lake Erie with my dad and my uncle. And they're fishing, and basically, you know, I got the attention span of a 5-year-old, because, you know what? I'm 5 years old. So I'm, you know, throwing things in the water and wondering why some things float, some things don't, and throwing rocks at seagulls, and just hanging out, trying to be a kid and waiting for them to, you know, they're telling stories and doing whatever. I don't know what that is. And then one day I remember oarboats, actually ships, as I was to find out later, but an oarboat come gliding out of the harbor out of Cleveland from the steel mills back up to the Minnesota ore fields. And that, at that time, was the largest moving object I'd ever seen in my life, close up. About 900 foot of object, thundering steam and whistles. You can feel the motors right through the pier up your legs as the thing just moves slowly out into the lake. And over a period of 2 or 3 fishing hours, that thing slowly disappeared over the horizon. Well, I had to know about that. Dad, where'd the big boat go, Dad? Dad turned and looked at me and go, well, that boat goes over the horizon to great adventures. And he'd wink at my uncle and say, oh, yes, great adventures over that horizon. Over the horizon, huh? Yeah, adventure. It's got to be better than waiting for fish to bite. Little boy in a little boy bed, trying to go to sleep. Foggy night, Cleveland. Through the open window of my bedroom, I can hear the toots of whistles of the ships and the boats on Lake Erie, and something else, too, something bigger and deeper. Dad, what's that noise, Dad? Dad, ever the joker. Well, that is the sea dragon. Yes, that's the sea dragon. And when it's foggy here on the lake, he swims from the ocean up the St. Lawrence Seaway, jumps the Niagara Falls, comes right to that spot where we were fishing, and sticks his head out of the water looking for little boys who don't go to sleep. Don't think of a dragon, don't think of a dragon. Put my head to the pillow. Now, when you put your head to the pillow, do you ever notice sometimes you'll hear your circulatory system going off? Bum, grump, 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 grump. Well, my little boy imagination turned that noise, grump, 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 into that dragon. That dragon was coming up out of the lake, shaking itself off, and boom, boom, 1 foot in each backyard. Boom, boom, headed from the lake shore, boom, boom, to my house, boom, boom. And I had to pick my head up off the pillow to make sure he didn't get there and stick his blazing eye through my window. Worked. Yep. That house was on a street called Orinoco, which I found out was the name of a river that ran to the sea in one of those countries over the horizon. Well, that dragon kind of grew up in my house. There was the table, of course, the breakfast table, and I remember my dad and uncle showing maps and trying to make me realize this little blot of dew right here, this blue dot right here was the Lake Erie, and it was connected to the St. Lawrence and the ocean and the globe, and I was trying to comprehend that, but I couldn't. So, but also on the breakfast table was the breakfast, and in those days they had these cereal premiums. I don't know if you remember them. I can't remember if it was Cheerios or Wheat Checks or shredded wheat or something like that. The Magic Submarine. Remember what they were powered by?
Uranium.
Uranium.
Baking powder. Baking soda.
Baking soda or baking powder. You make a mistake.
Soda.
Yeah, you make a mistake. When you put baking powder in one of these things, boom, it blows up.
Sorry.
Landlubber. What are you?
No, I was a squid.
You're a squid, okay. So I get these little things, and they were just, they were my delight, you know, and I wore out the fish tank in the living room, put a few fish under some severe stresses. And, but my mom liked it because I would be in the bathtub a little bit longer with my goggles and my fleet of magic submarines, you know, so she was up until she started wondering what I was doing all that baking soda, okay. Also, the cereal I had to eat with a certain spoon. The only spoon I could eat with was my uncle's spoon. My uncle, he was in the Navy. I'm named for my uncle, so my uncle's a hero. So he came back from World War II, and he had a spoon, just a tablespoon, that said USN right there. That was mine. My sisters couldn't have that. That was mine. My dad stuck up for me. My mom accidentally gave him the wrong spoon. So I ate my cereal with my USN spoon. And also the media. Now, right there in the living room, television was starting to grow up. And there was the TV screen, black and white, maybe about this big. And I was showing old movies, and I was showing the stories of the war, and I was showing Victory at Sea. Who hasn't seen Victory at Sea? Raise your fucking hand. Oh, God. Kids these days. Victory at Sea, the story of that generation's sacrifice, soldiers and sailors around the world having their wartime adventures with a stirring soundtrack by Richard Rodgers. Black and white TV with showing, and they're actually showing the stories about what my dad and my uncle were talking about, fishing, and around the table. These adventures they had had overseas. Here they were with the soundtrack. Down the street, Shaw Hayden Theater, movie house. Technicolor, big screen, Audie Murphy, John Wayne heroic movies. Showing manly men doing the manly thing. Getting our generation ready for our turn. Well, also submarine movies, of course. Well, you had Burt Lancaster and Clark Gable, you know. Was it Torpedo Alley? What was the name of that one?
Torpedo Run.
Torpedo Run, thank you. That's right. Then we had Kurt Jurgens. What was it? There's another U-boat movie. Enemy Below. Guys are good. The guys are good. That's right. Yeah. So I'm sucking up all this military lore and all this adventure right down at not only in the living room but at the corner theater. So I'm just getting primed. I'm getting ready. I have already in me this desire to chase that dragon over the horizon and find out what my adventures are going to be. That's right. My adventures. What could that possibly be as I'm growing up? I don't know, but I'm seeing it, and I'm reading about it. Moby Dick, I mean, not only the war movies, but the romance of the sea movies, Clipper Ships and the Storm Around the Horn. Moby Dick, I saw it 10 times in the summer. I just fell in love with the romance of the sea. I knew every sail on a clipper ship from bowsprit to mizzenmast. Yes, Moby Dick, I even read the book when I was 10 years old, or tried to read the book when I was 10 years old. So I was ready. I was ready to chase that dragon, find my adventure over the horizon around the 7 seas. 7 seas. I'll buy anybody a drink if they can name me the 7 seas. Who wants to try? Come on. Anybody? You. 7 seas. Name them.
Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic. No, Antarctic. Crap. Nope.
Crap. No. Anybody else? Oh, how about else? That's 4. Okay, come on. 7 seas?
South China Sea.
Adriatic. Keep going.
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. What else?
Green Goddess. Black Sea.
Green Goddess.
Black
yeah.
Branch.
Fuck you.
The Black Sea.
Black Sea.
Caspian.
Wrong.
All wrong.
All wrong. Listen and learn. North Atlantic and South Atlantic. North Pacific and South Pacific. Antarctic, Arctic, and the Indian. Those are the official 7 seas. You guys all owe me a drink. You betcha.
That's the point.
But before I could do this adventure, I got slapped in the face with reality. I gotta get out of high school and go find my life's work, or as they used to call it then, get a job. Now, I hadn't done much in high school. I played football, read books. That's about it. So my grades sucked. I wasn't going to college. So I got out and had to take anything I could get. The first job I got was with Uarco Business Forms. I was a coffee boy and a mail boy, pushing the coffee cart around the office. You want black coffee and a donut. Got to be something better than this. Got fired from that job for some reason. Got a job at Republic Steel, manly job. Open hearth furnaces. Imagine a giant, like the Oakland Stadium, filled full of old brick ovens. Giant ovens. And they're all flaming and cooking and smoking and sparking. And there's these giant machines running up and down on rails, and the doors would open up and they'd stick these arms in there and they'd drop off junk metal, and then these giant ladles would be flying through the air and be pouring things, and there'd be guys running around in this dim light with flames bursting all over and steam and graphite constantly raining down. And slaggers is what we call it. They'd open the door up, we'd go, there'd be a big pile of dolomite or silica, and we'd dig into that and shovel it into the recipe of this steel there, and our eyebrows would be smoking off. There's got to be something better than this. It was an adventure a little bit too close to danger for me. I got a job at Ford Motor Company on the assembly line. 10 hours a day. Bzz, bzz. Click, click. A gazz, click, click. Boring as fuck. There's got to be something better than this. Luckily, I was saved by the draft. 1964. Had no choice. 18 years old, you got to register. There was no choice. There were no options. No options. And so I got drafted, and I'm going, well, okay, I got drafted. I'm just going to do my duty. I mean, my dad, my uncle, they had done their duty. Was expected to do. I'll do mine. So I'm called up. I get a choice now. I can go in the Army for 2 years, be a dog face. My dad would have kicked my ass if I'd have chose that choice. So no, I'm ready for the sea. I've got the romance of the sea hungering in me. So I'm ready to chase the dragon over the horizon. So I'm going to join the Navy. I'll be 4 years. Okay, that's fine. I'll do 4 years. I'll learn a trade, I'll get a job, find my life's work, I'll have some adventure. So, down to the recruiter. My first social intercourse with the Navy. Intercourse, I want to stress that. Now, recruiters are an unholy breeding alliance of priests, used car salesmen, and politicians. And what they are is smiles, and glad hand, and all deep concern about what you want to get out of your Navy experience. Son, come on in right here. Now, what is it that you would like to do? Well, I want to learn a trade. I'm not sure which, but I want to see the world. Yes, son, you came to the right place. I'll take this book with you. This is a book of all the job careers in the Navy. Take that home, study it for a week, come back, you tell me what you want to do. I take the book home. I'm leafing through the book, and I'm looking at all the jobs available. Okay, and I don't know why, and I don't know how, but why I picked meteorologist. I don't know. Maybe it was a picture of a meteorologist in action. Not sure. Back to the recruiter. Okay, I want to be a meteorologist. Meteorologist. Yeah, fine choice, son. You betcha. Yeah, slick. Sign here. my first signature of consequence. I'm to find out. Boom, right there. Okay, now then, you go get your affairs in order, and we'll head you off to your Navy adventure in no time. So here I go. Off to boot camp, Waukegan, Illinois, in the winter. Just a little bit north of Chicago. Now, what can you say about boot camp? It's a Boy Scout jamboree run by fascists and sadists, I guess. But it does work. It does get a little boy's, well, not little boy anymore. We're young men. But it gets our attention. It gets our mind locked in one thing. Survival. Survive this thing. Relentless physical exercises, push-ups, marching one step in front of the other, march, march, march. Psychological tests, batteries of scholastic tests to find out what you have a tendency for, what you have a talent for, and a system so rigid and demanding. You wondered how you survived without it before. And you make it through. Some guys don't. Some guys are dropping out. Some guys are being thrown out. But I did my duty, got through it. And then the last thing is the counselor. They save you for the end here at boot camp when your mind is pliable. Now the counselor, very much related to that recruiter. But he don't have to smile. They got your ass. You ain't going anywhere. Meteorologist? Yeah, right. Uh-huh. We ain't taking any meteorologists right now, boy. What? But I signed up. We ain't taking any meteorologists. Okay, now looking at your aptitude test, it shows here you have some tendencies towards engineering. Well, that's true, yeah. I worked on my car, and my dad's an engineer or a mechanic. But I don't just say this to anyone, son. I'm talking nuclear engineering. Nuclear engineering. Nuclear power? I know about nuclear power. Yeah, nuclear power. I saw the 16mm film there in high school, a little black and white thing with jumping around with a big kilowatt and a little atom guy, and too cheap to meter, too cheap to meter. Front cover of Popular Science and Popular Mechanics about this is the future. This is the savior of mankind's energy needs, nuclear power. And I'm being offered a chance to be part of this priesthood. I'm being offered a chance to, well, it's just like my dad, he works in a power plant. My grandfather escaped Europe, feudal system in Europe, came over, worked his way up, shoveling coal on this power plant, and then when my dad got out of the army in '46, my grandfather gave him a job, so there's two mechanics, engineers right there. I'll just get in line with my gene pool, take the next step into the future. My future was glowing. So, okay, I'll do that. Yeah. Now, what do you want to do in nuclear power, son? Oh, did I say this, son? There's an extra 2 years of training. Wait a minute. 4 years? 6 years. What do you mean 2 years extra? Well, I got to send you to school. It's very complex. It's very complex stuff. We're going to give you college education here in 2 years. Why? If you decide the Navy's not for you, you get out, you're going to have a job assured. Assured job in the future. When you get out. That's right. That's worth a worthy investment here. Okay, well, I guess so. 2 years of... Yeah, okay. I'll take that, all right? Now, what is it you'd like to do? You want to be... what job you want to do? You want to be eye seaman? That's interior communications. Yeah. Phone man? Nah. How about electrician? No, I never could get a handle on that electrical theory. How about electronics? Electronics? No future in electronics. How about machinist mate? Machinist mate. Yeah, well, that's what my dad does. Valve twister. Yeah, right. Mechanic. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get in line with my grandfather, my father, one more time. I'll be a mechanic. I'll be a machinist mate. Fine, good. All right, sign there, okay? Now then, son, anybody ever ask you if you wanted to volunteer for submarines? Volunteer for submarines? Hell, who wouldn't want to volunteer for submarines? Yeah, sign right there. In a space of 3 minutes, I made 3 signatures that set me on a road that led me down the path to a glorious, I thought, glorious future. There you are, on my way. Through at boot camp, off to machinist mate school, same place, Waukegan, for 2 months, learn how to be an engineer. They call them in the Navy, they call them snipes. Snipes. learn how to twist valves, bring steam into the engine room, repack pumps, rebuild machines, high pressure compressors and hydraulic systems, and damage control. More damage control than you ever imagine. Every engineering catastrophe you ever thought of is you got to get ready for it. You know, runaway this and exploding that and leaky this and you name it. We're practicing for that. So I find out that snipes are the heart of the Navy, because without us, those ships and boats, they don't go anywhere. They're just tied up alongside the dock. We supply the alchemy of fire and water that provides the power, the steam, the motivation to send those around the world over every horizon. We're the guys that do it. That's right. So, done with that, off to submarine school. I volunteered for sub school, so here we go. New London, Connecticut for 2 more months. More engineering, more electronics, more weapon systems and hydraulics and strategies, underwater warfare strategies, and physiological tests. They put you in a room that takes the air pressure and goes boom, 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 like this on your eardrum to find out if you can take boom, 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 boom. 100-foot tank of water, you got to escape from the bottom and swim up 100 tank foot of water in case you need to escape from a submarine. Like they're always doing, you know. So more batteries of psychological tests to find out if you can fit in with the submarine service, an elite group of men. That's right. So not just anybody can get through it. So guys are being kicked out and guys are dropping out. And I'm keeping my course. I'm staying the course, so to speak. End of the submarine school, 2 months, and the last thing you do is a real ride on a real submarine. So it's down to the river there at Groton, Connecticut. Standing on a deck of an old diesel submarine that's got the duty to take these little submarine students out, find out if they're fit. No, we've been only in the Navy for a few months, and so our hats are kind of standing in line on deck right here, waiting to go down inside the submarine. And there, sitting in the hatch, is an old salt. Now, the sailors we've been dealing with up to this point have all been, they were at sea at one point, but now they're on land for a while. That takes the edge off you. These guys were still sea salts, sea dogs, and you could tell there was something different about these guys. They had a little raunchier look to them. A little leaner, a little meaner. Uniforms a little faded and frayed. Tattoos peeking out from underneath their little sleeves. Hats set at a Johnny angle. Wait right here, guys. Somebody coming up the ladder. There's a guy coming up the ladder. Now, I'm sure this wasn't in the curriculum, but here was our lesson for the day. The old salt, addressing the guy coming up the hatch, says, "Hey, Charlie, what's for lunch today?" Charlie gets up close to him like this, and they both grab each other by the head and give each other a full lip lock. "Tuna fish again?" Down the hatch. So down the hatch we go. Down into the bowels of a submarine. Now inside the submarine, about 290 feet long by 20 foot round, crammed full of machinery. Humanity's second thought to this place. Okay? Humanity's got to fit itself around this machinery. And then we're just in the way. There's the crew members running back and forth, getting the boat ready to take off. And so they send us up forward to the forward torpedo room, and we try to get out of the way, sitting on the bunks there as the sailors are running around. And we can hear the engines warming up and rumbling in the back aft. And we can hear orders being given to cast off the lines, and we can feel the boat's motion as it moves away from the pier, and the tugs take control of it and bump it around and send it down the river, headed towards the ocean. Now, I've been on a boat before. I've been on some boats. I had a little sailboat myself on Lake Erie. I know what water feels like under my ass. Right? I know what that kind of water, I know what it feels like. So here we go. We're floating out the river, headed for deep water, and we cross the bar. When you cross the bar, your bottom drops out, start dropping out into the ocean. And the boat took on a different motion. The boat suddenly felt like it was held, grabbed by some big arms, and it was picked up and moved against its will. And another will, the will of the ocean, something big and deep and strong. And some of the guys started getting a little queasy, and you could feel it, you know. And then as we motored out on the surface and headed out for deep water for that first dive, you know, the old salts are standing around shooting the shit with us a little bit, talking, where you from, son, you know, blah, blah, blah. Just keeping an eye on us and watching us and our reactions. Then we hear the order to dive. Ooga, ooga, dive, dive. The engines shut down back aft as they shift to battery power. You can hear the hydraulics hiss and sizzle through the pipes above us as vents and floods are opened and closed, and the water starts to rush into the tanks on the outside of this hull. And you can hear the bubble line here where the water was. That's the water line right about here. It starts to go higher and higher and higher. And the motion of the boat from this ocean motion starts to slide under the water, and it turns into a glide, a quiet glide. Now, some guys who had passed all the tests, hell, they aced all the tests. They got 4 O's, all the psychological, all the physiological, all the meteorological, all the theological tests, they passed with flying colors. But when that hatch closed, when those engines turned off, and when that boat went under the water and that motion changed, some of them decided this might not be a good idea. Their hand went up. The old salt called to the control room, and the boat surfaced, and there was a launch waiting there to take the gun. They say, thanks for trying, son, thanks for trying. You know, it wasn't for you, but okay, thanks for trying. And they sent them off to the skimmer navy. Skimmers, that's the guy on top, float on the top. Now there are 2 types of vessels in the world: submarines and targets. Went off to the target navy. But I did it. I had watched enough submarine movies. I knew this was going to be fun. This is going to be an adventure. So we're through with that. Through with sub school. Now we're not qualified to wear the dolphins yet, but we're qualified to go to a submarine. Got the basic training. And now we're off to the new Navy. Now we're off to nuclear power, the future, the elite, that's right. 6 months of practicals, that's right, 6 months in Bainbridge, Maryland, of theoretics. Heat transfer and fluid flow, particle physics, metallurgy, fission theory, how to use, this is 1966, mind you, how to use a slide rule. That was the computer, the slide rule. And so this slide rule would tell you if your reactor was going prompt critical. Kiss my ass goodbye. So that's 6 months of that, and the academic pressure is now on. Up to now, basically, my adventure was staying off the academic shit list. So I'm studying overtime. I'm really putting in the time. I want to make this thing. I've got my gene pool's flag to carry into this future. I got to work hard. So I'm busting my balls, and I'm just learning this shit, algebra, just calculus. I got high doing calculus for 2 weeks. Now I failed geometry, you know, but somehow this calculus somehow triggered something in my brain, and I was getting high doing it, and I was sorry to see it go. So 6 months of that, and then finally through with those things, the theoreticals and not the practicals. West Milton, New York, a real reactor up in West Milton, outside of Saratoga Springs. Skidmore College, got any Skidmore girls here? West Milton, a real steam-breathing, turbine-turning temple of the new technology. And now we get hands-on. 6 months of hands-on experience to learn, again, more engineering catastrophes and how to avert, how to avoid, how to correct, how to safely run one of these monsters, these nuclear power reactors. And so, like, every time you turn a valve, you got to know not only why you're turning the valve, but the theory that goes every which way. What's going to happen if something else over there is wrong, something that's not open, it should be open, and there's a guy standing over your shoulder watching you, and there's a guy standing over his shoulder watching him, and all the way up the chain of command to Admiral Rickover, father of the nuclear navy, and he's watching everybody. You don't make a mistake. No, it's not 3 strikes, it's 2 strikes and you're out here. You make 2 errors here, and zip, you're off. You're out of here. You go to the oil burning navy. Hey, where's Bansky? Kicked him out. He's burning oil now. Yeah. And he's got 2 extra years to do it too. They don't take your 2 years of training away. You got to still do those. So pressure's on, and I'm I'm up for it. I pass it. I get through it. Step out of nuclear power training. The new Navy. That's right. I am the new Navy. Ready to face the challenges. But an engineering catastrophe back in '63. USS Thresher, latest fast attack submarine, come off the shipway. Went out for a dive in the Atlantic, and 129 guys. Come on, here we go. Yeah. The Thresher, fast attack, went out for a dive in about 6,000 feet of water, and it didn't come back up again. 129 guys on the bottom. Like that. So they stopped building these things. So the shipyards are waiting to find out, because they could go down and pick up the pieces of this thing, which was a shattered puzzle, about 5,000 feet deep in the water, in the mud. And they had to pick up every one of these little pieces and can bring it back up and try to fit it back together again to figure out what went wrong, so that they wouldn't do that mistake again. That's $1 billion worth of machinery and a lot of lives. So the Navy was a little slow on building these things. So the crews were coming out of the schools, and they were written, but no boats were coming out, so we didn't have a nuke boat to go to. The guys that were skimmer, designated, they went out to their skimmer fleet, but submarine sailors, no place to go. So, they'll send us to a skimmer for a little while. Now, in my class, there was a guy. Now, I didn't go to college because, I didn't have the grades, I didn't have the money, and I was cannon fodder. High school early on determined that I was cannon fodder. They made this tracking thing. If you're smart, they give you the college courses. If you played football and weren't smart, you did the shop courses, and that's where I was. Okay, so I wasn't a senator's son. And when I got drafted, you either go to college, you couldn't do that, or you get married. Now, marriage was an adventure I wanted to save for later. But here we are, getting ready to go off to, just a waiting job for the submarine billet to open up. And one of the guys in the class had some connections. His dad had the ear of somebody in the Pentagon. So this kid was with me in my class, and he was submarine designated too. So they made a phone call. Dad made a phone call. The next thing you know, our orders are changed. We get to go to a submarine to wait for the nuclear power boat of our destiny to be built. So they sent us to an old diesel boat. So off I go to Pearl Harbor. The USS Tyru, SS-416, old diesel boat, built in 1946 up here in Vallejo. And I report aboard Pearl Harbor, and as soon as you report aboard, you know you're in for the shits. The yeoman's taking your orders, he looks at you and goes, ooh, another nuke puke. They know we're just here temporary, they know we're the elite. So it's okay, yeah, we got another one, yeah. So report aboard, and I'm going, I'll just be here a couple of months. A couple of months, and then I'm going off to my future, the real Navy. But no, there's a cruise going on. This boat's taking it. This boat's going on a 6-month West Pacific cruise. So I'm on board, and here we go. Cast off out of Pearl Harbor, headed for first Liberty port, Brisbane, Australia. Now, when the word came down that Brisbane, Australia was going to be our Liberty, you should have seen some of these old lifers light up now. These lifers had been in for 15, 20 years. They'd never been to Australia, but soon they were going to Australia. They started telling the stories that they had heard about Australia. Australia is heaven. It's heaven for us. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be. Here I am. That's my first Liberty port. Of course, I'm going to Brisbane. Off across the ocean. Now, a diesel boat is a totally different animal than a nuclear power boat. Nuclear power boat goes out, goes under, and stays under as long as it wants. It makes its own air, makes its own water. They only got a surface to resupply with food and re-enlist everybody. Stay out as long as it wants. And you're not really like a sailor. You're like an astronaut. You're like man in a can. They go out, they go under, and you don't have any sea time. You're not engaged with the ocean. You're just in this tube. But a diesel boat runs on the surface all the time. Diesel boat has to breathe. It can only stay underwater for a couple of days, and then it has to stick a snorkel up and breathe, charge the batteries, charge its air banks. So it's basically a surface vessel that has the ability to go underwater for a little while. So we're headed across the ocean, and it's mostly on the surface. Now I'm standing watching this engine room. Fairbanks Morris, 16-cylinder, opposed piston roaring away there, number one. And number two was taken out so they could put in the Prairie Masker. The Prairie Masker. Prairie Masker, I can't talk to you about that. Back aft in the after engine room is number 3 and number 4. So 3 engines are running. We're standing there. It's hot, smelly. I got the dirtiest jobs. I got to go in the bilges. I got to clean the filters. I got the crappy jobs because I'm a nuke puke. The other old salts there are just tolerating me, so I've got to prove myself somehow. And then you're out at sea, and what you got to do is you got to qualify on the boat. They don't just give you these dolphins, these fins. You got to earn them. And the way you earn them is you get qualified. To get qualified, you have to know everything. And I mean everything about the boat. Everybody else's job. You got to know the torpedo man's job. You got to know the electrician's job, the cook's job, the navigator's job, the radio man's job, everybody's job you have to know. Because if you're in the compartment and something goes wrong, you may be the one to twist the right valve and throw the right switch at the right time and save the boat and save the crew. So until you know everything, until you are able to do that, you are a hazard. You're a non-qual puke. What are you doing reading a fuck book? You know the hydraulics yet? Get your ass out of your rack. Let's go. Can't watch the movies in the after battery. No, you got to get qualified. Go learn high pressure air. You signed off yet? So it's constantly tracing out every little electrical line, every hydraulic line, air line, every manifold, every gauge. You have to know everything about it. It's relentless. It's never ending. Getting checked off. But I'm in the engine room, but not all the time. Luckily, they shift us. They rotate us out, and they send one of the oilers, we're called oilers back in the engine room, lowest man on the engineering rung. And we get to go up in the control room, and sometimes we get to be on the helm, drive a submarine. Or we're underwater. Sometimes we're on the bow planes or the stern planes, controlling the angle of the boat underwater. Or around the surface, sometimes we're up in the sail as a lookout. Up in the sail. Strapped in with a belt, got your big binoculars on, and you're in the ocean. You're on the ocean. You're part of the ocean. And the ocean was something else. The ocean had character. The ocean had personalities. Ocean had colors like you've never seen before. The ocean had drama, grays and greens and blues, and whales spouting over there, and dolphins playing on the bow, and rainbows and double rainbows. And at night, I saw a moonbow. A moonbow. Rainbow made out of bands of moonlight. Storms that sent the waves higher than the sail, crashing down on us. We lived for days as the boat rocked back and forth and up and down, a little sliver of metal caught in the ocean. We couldn't go underneath and hide from the storms because it was too dangerous, because you had to surface after a couple of days, and if the storm lasted 3 days, you try to surface in a storm, you can get rolled over and sunk. So we had to ride out the storms on the surface. Sometimes the sea was so calm and smooth like a mirror that it reflected the clouds exactly. Or at night, it reflected the stars. The Milky Way reflected exactly in the water, like you were in this ball of stars. You look back aft, the wake was cutting through the photoplankton, little bursts of photoplankton going off like soft fireworks in the ocean. Boom, boom, boom. Romance of the sea. The smell, got to get out of that smell down below of diesel and armpits and mildew and smell of the sea. And when you cross downwind of an island, you could smell that greenery and you'd perk up. Your nose took on another dimension. So I was lucky. I was up there. Rituals. Not only were we doing drills, constant drills, any moment there could be the collision alarm, the fire alarm, general alarm, you name it, there's an alarm going off. You're ready to eat, the alarm goes off, and you're off to your station. You're trying to get a little bit of sleep, the alarm goes off, and you're off to your station, your damage control station. So sleep was a premium, constantly training, constantly drilling for every contingency. And the rituals of maritime history were with us. 1,000-year-old tradition of crossing the line. Anybody here a shellback? Got any shellbacks in here? No shellbacks? All a bunch of fucking pollywogs. Thought I smelled something. Shellback is somebody who has crossed the equator. Pollywog hasn't crossed the equator. Now, whenever a ship, this goes back, hell, to the time of Ulysses, cross that line, you have to stop and do the ritual. That means the court of King Neptune will come aboard and initiate the pollywogs into the shellback. Okay? Now, we knew about this, and there was about 70 guys on board this submarine, and more than half of us were pollywogs, so we knew what was coming. We heard the stories. We knew it was going to be a little bit of hazing, and there was going to be some smacking around, and there was going to be something messy, and worst of all, they're going to shave our heads. Oh, shit, shave our heads. We're going to Brisbane, man. The girls, I don't want to be like a boot camp. You know. So we're smart. You know, we're smart boys. We find out where the shears, the clippers are, hair shears. We hide those. We're smart, right? So there we are, crossing the line. Boat stops. Captain comes over the 1MC. All pollywogs lay to the forward torpedo room hatch in the uniform of the day, skivvies on backwards. There we go. All right, so it can't be too bad. At least we're going to keep our hair. Here we go. Up that ladder to the deck. Now, up on deck at the hatch is the chief of the boat, the Cobb. And he's sitting there, and he's got his shellback outfit on, something weird and okay, pirate looking. And in his arms, in his hands, are the biggest piece of tin snips you ever seen. Big, lumbering blades like this. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, divots right out of all four corners. We knew we were screwed. We'd have to give up the clippers to even this mess out. Score one for the shellbacks. So now we're on deck, and the first thing I had to do on deck in the court of King Neptune was pay homage to the Royal Baby. Now, the Royal Baby was this lifer torpedo man, had a big beer gut, and he had tattoos for days. He had a tattoo for every month of his stay in the Navy, I think. But the tattoo I remember most was about this big. And it was right around his belly button. It was a cartoon bunny rabbit. Kind of Warner Brothers Looney Toony kind of thing. And it was a little bunny rabbit looking over its shoulder, so that its tail was right above his belly button. Get the picture? Now he's smearing that, you gotta kiss that, okay? And he's smearing it with what they had been saving for 3 weeks. The shellbacks had been saving and secreting away buckets full of swill from the galley. That stew that was a little bit rancid and left over, that bread pudding that nobody liked, oh, that goes in the bucket too, and throw some shit in there and put the lid on it and let it fester for a while somewhere, okay? And they've been saving up buckets full of this crap. So he's dipping his hand into this bucket and smearing it all over his belly, and you're supposed to come up to it and kiss it. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the outer edge of my epidermis. That's all good. It's, man, it'll fulfill my... And he grabs your head and just throws you back down on the deck. And you can't see, and it's burning, and it smells like hell. Next in line is the queen. It's some chief with a mop on his head and a couple of coconuts, you know, and a grass skirt. And you got to kiss the queen's foot, and the queen's foot, of course, is planted inside a bucket of more of that swill, and you got to pull it out. And you gotta kiss that. And then you gotta crawl down the way, and there's King Neptune, and King Neptune's waiting for you with a big old smack you on the side of the head, dump some more crap on it. Then you gotta crawl through this canvas chute about 15 feet long, and it's packed full of that swill, some more of that swill. You gotta crawl through it, and on the outside, the shellbacks have got 3-foot lengths of fire hose, canvas fire hose, and they're smacking you over the ass and smacking you over the head, and you're crawling. Somebody puked up in here. You climb out the other end, you jump in the water, and you come out with a handshake and a welcome aboard, shellback. And I'm plotting right now. Next time I cross the line, just what I'm gonna do. Now we put a big old stain in this beautiful tropical ocean. Clear, clear blue water. Big old meat stain sitting there on the side of the boat. Lookouts up in the sail. Shark watch. Blew the whistle. Sharky. He caught some wind of this treat, and he comes circling up. And everybody hops out of the water, and this shark goes circling through the meat stain and turns and tails a fin and goes back down into the depths. Put some way on the boat and finish off that ritual. Now we pull into Brisbane. Heads shaved, and park on the river. We got 10 days of R&R, rest and recreation, or as the old salts would like to call it, I&I, intoxication and intercourse. And here we are, our first Liberty port. Our little cupcake hats on there, we're flopping down the street. Brisbane, charming little town, 1966. We come to our first bar, peek our head in the bar, we're gonna have a drink. And in the bar, a bunch of old Aussie guys. Oh, Yank, come on in, Yank, buy you a drink. And you couldn't buy a drink in that town for 10 days. These old Aussie guys, these old vets wanted, Yanks were in town, we were gods. Come on in, drinks are on the house. And they wanted to talk to us. They wanted to tell us, the only stories we had were, gee, once I got an A- in particle physics. And these guys had fought the Japanese in the jungles of New Guinea. So they're telling stories and swapping stories and getting drunk and treating us, and they're taking us out to dinner, and then they take us home. They take us home to meet the wife, and they take us home to meet the wife, and they sacrificed their daughters to us. That's how good it was. The stories about Brisbane were true. My first Liberty port. So 10 days there, we're done. Heading up to Subic Bay in the Philippines, and we're cutting up, heading north, heading east a little bit. Now, right around that coast there, you're familiar with the Great Barrier Reef, I'm sure. It's National Geographic, and there's this amazing maze of rock coral heads, shallows. Well, our navigator, Annapolis boy, plotted a course. Now, I'm not sure if he was taking a shortcut or what, but he put us on a course, and so we're running on the surface. And we're got 3 engines running. We can make about 14, 15 knots. And we're charging north there. Charging north and a little bit east. Okay, got a course. We're running on the surface. Now, I wasn't up in the sail at the time. I was sleeping in the forward torpedo room. But up in the sail, you got 2 lookouts and an officer of the deck. You got always 3 sets of eyes at least up there. And lookouts got to be sharp. And they're trained. You got to look. You're looking at the horizon. You're looking at the air. You're looking at the water. You're constantly got time for a little chit chat. You're back to looking. Constant eyes all over, looking for anything of question. So here they are. They up in the sail here. It's kind of a North Atlantic version of the sail here. And the boat's running. Boom, it's driving along. And it's a calm sea. And it's nighttime. And it's high tide. And up ahead, you look on a good map off the coast of Australia there in the reef area, you'll find a place called Frederick Reef. Frederick Reef, about a mile horseshoe coral that at high tide sat just under the surface. And at a calm water showed no indication of any riffle. So we're just charging along. Now, one lookout did say it looked like you could see a little disturbance in the water up ahead. Could have been wind. Wind will do that, kick up a little texture in the water. So he reports that to the officer of the deck, and the officer of the deck puts his eyes on it. It just looks like a little wind up there. They're charging along, and it just looks like wind, but they get closer and closer and closer, and no, it's not wind. It's the rocks. But 1,900 tons of steel, the old gray teeth and the smile of foreign diplomacy. At 15 knots, it ain't gonna stop anytime soon. And we ran right up on the rocks, halfway the length of the boat. Now I'm in the forward torpedo room sleeping in my rack. And there's a torpedo here, and there's a torpedo here, and there's a little bunk, a little rack sitting right there. And I'm kind of tucked in there. And we're hot racking, because now we're the new guys, so we get the shit, so we have to share a rack with somebody. That means that we have to, when we get off watch, we wake this guy up, and he goes and stands to watch, and we get to climb into his still warm bunk. Hot racking, so I'm in there trying to sleep. And the alarm goes off. Collision alarm. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, we've been only training for about 4 weeks, but this is how deep that training and how good that training was. Out of a sound sleep, that collision alarm got me up, put my feet on my deck. Now, there's 4 things you do in the forward torpedo room for collision. You close the main hatch right there. You double check the escape hatch. You check the pit log, and you throw the breaker right over here on the big panel. 4 things you do in a collision. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Out of a sound sleep, I'm up. I step towards the hatch. Somebody's there. There's 20 guys living in a room about this big. So somebody's got that, somebody's got the escape trunk, somebody's got the pit log, somebody's thrown the breaker, and I sit back down in my bunk, and then I wake up. I was totally on automatic. My brain was looking for a cup of coffee, and my body was going through what it had to do. That's how good that training was. And then we felt it. It wasn't a drill. We felt the boat run right up on Frederick Reef. Stuck. Okay, a lot of mad scrambling. Okay, start backing the engines down. Start lightening the load, shifting weight. We get the crew up on the deck and we sally. We sally the boat back and forth, run back and forth, trying to rock the boat with just the manpower, just the weight of 60 guys running back and forth, trying to do this, trying to hit up. Nothing's moving. Mayday goes out. Oh, this is going to be embarrassing for somebody. So we're here, we're stuck, man, we ain't going anywhere. So I get to lookout duty, I get to be up here and look around, and everybody's in the engine room, they're still roaring at full speed, we got guys out in little rubber boats, the Cobb and Hogue, he's one of my steaming mates, and he's out there in a little rubber raft and throwing lead lines out at different times to find out where the tide is, how high, when's the opportune time to lighten and back off. And a big wave comes up, and as I'm coming out to the deck here, big wave comes up and dumps them into the middle. And it's like, man overboard, port side, and I run out there. And there's the Cobb sitting there in the water, and I take the lead line, I got a monkey fist on it, and flip it into him and grab it, and we pull them back aft, and another big wave comes up. More guys are back here, they're getting blasted, and there's a little rail right here. You have a chain thing to hold you on there, but the wave picks them up and crashes them into the back of the sail, and they're dangling over the side. Helicopters are flying around picking people up. Now the Australian Navy had come out, and the New Zealand Navy, but they couldn't get in close because it's too shallow out here, so we're waiting for somebody with a shallow draft to get in close to us. And we're stuck, and the wind's picking up. And the boat is being picked up by the waves, and being picked up and dropped. 1,900 tons. It's like this whole theater being picked up and dropped. Picked up and dropped. And you're living also 15 degrees this way. Picked up and dropped. And that lasted for about a day and a half. Tempers are short. So I'm up in the sail, and I'm looking around, I'm scanning, and look, there's a horizon full of boats, the air's full of helicopters. We're in the news all over the place. Hell, my parents are back in Ohio watching Walter Cronkite on television. USS Tyroo runs aground on the Great Barrier. My son. So I'm up there looking around, there's sea snakes in there. Deadliest fucking snakes in the world right there. Sea snakes. Now the wind had been blowing off the port side here for some days. Boom, waves, boom, wind. Now we're up there, lookouts are strapped in up here. And all of a sudden, the wind dies. The waves start to sigh. Kind of calms out. Gets a little quiet. No howling wind. No crashing of the waves. Wow, that was fast. Second later, from the starboard side. Here comes the wind, here come the waves. We started our roll. Now we're hitched up over on a fin, stabilizing fin on the bottom here. These old diesel boats can sit on the bottom. Duke boats can't sit on the bottom. Diesel boats can sit on the bottom. We're stuck there, and suddenly we're starting to move. Now we're 80 feet from keel to the top of the sail. And suddenly, it starts to move. The whole boat starts to move. You can hear the coral underneath crunching under the keel. And everything's shifting, and the alarms are going off again, and we're closing the doors, and something's happening. And it's like being in a ride, like an amusement ride, that you don't know what the purpose was for, even. And it's moving like this. It's going, and it feels like slow motion. It's going, I have my buckle undone. I'm ready. If this thing does roll over, I'm ready to walk down the side of the sail, walk along the hull, and stand on the keel. Just like that. I'll save my ass. Just like you think when an elevator's falling from the 50th floor, and you're going to just jump at the last second and save your ass.
All right.
So it rolls over and hitches up on the other fin on the other side for 15 degrees. I'm living this way for another day and a half. Finally, the car lock, a little tug out of Brisbane with a shallow enough draft, comes in, throws a line around us, pulls us right off. Now, no damage to the pressure hole. We're not leaking, we're not taking on water, but all the tanks on the outside, there's a pressure hole, and around the outside are all these tanks. And the torpedo tubes probably got out of a line. But we had to check ourselves before we went back up north to Subic, to the Navy base, so we had to go back to Brisbane. The heroes return. Into a dry dock there to check out the bottom, and there's the girls. 2 marriages. 1 officer, 1 enlisted guy. Married Aussie girls on that trip. Oh yeah, the navigator, guy who put us up on the rocks. Yeah, he charted a course. Now back then it wasn't GPS. He was taking sun sights. You're taking sun sights, you're taking moon sights, star sights. You're looking at maps. And he didn't allow for this current drift. And so we were 5 miles west of where we should have been. And that's how we caught that reef. That navigator, that Annapolis boy, was transferred to the Pentagon. If that makes you feel any better. So now, skipping Subic, we got to go to Yokosuka, as they call it, the Tokyo Bay, where the big Navy base is. We had to go in for a month in dry dock to tear out all the bottom here and fix this stuff and realign the tubes. And so we're in now, finally, a real Navy sailor Liberty Town. Now when you hit the beach in a Liberty Town, there are some rules that the old salts will tell you. Number 1, never go steaming without a steaming buddy. Number 2, never to get a tattoo when you're drunk. And there's several other ones. The tattoo one, like, so we're out and steaming around and going, Shit Street. Shit Street's right outside of every Navy gate. You know, every military base has got a Shit Street. Massage parlors, billiard parlors, bars, ladies of some talents. We're full of hormones and alcohol, so we're going to engage them. And so out we go into Shit Street. And my buddies, you know, saying, "Well, I haven't got a tattoo yet, huh, Ed? Hey, Holmes ain't got a tattoo." Okay. So I find myself in the New Joby bar there on Shit Street in Yokosuka. New Joby was our bar. Everybody had their own bars. The submarine bars, destroyer bars, and Airedale bars, the marine bars. Fucking jarheads. Soldiers are over there, so we all had our own bars. Okay, you didn't walk into the wrong bar, otherwise you have to fight your way up. So the New Joby was our bar. So I'm sitting there and I'm noticing beers showing up. Man, I'm always really broke. Everybody's broke. You didn't get paid much, but man, I'm gonna get drunk today. Thanks, buddies. They're lubing me up. A little later, when I'm lubed up, I'm between a couple of my shipmates, staggering down the street, walking into a tattoo parlor with a neon sign that says, "More precious than jewelry." And I'm standing there bleary-eyed, looking at the wall, trying to figure out how I'm gonna decorate my body forever. Now, is it gonna be the skull with a snake crawling through it, flames coming out of its face, and it says "Mom" on it? How about an anchor that says USN Forever on a chest right there? And maybe not forever. No, I think I'll hold off on that. How about a dragon? Yeah, a dragon. Dragon walking on my arm and claws with bleeding spots like that. It's got in its teeth, it's got liberty on it. So, yeah, something like that. For some reason, I had some sort of latent aesthetic principles going on, and I wound up staggering out of that tattoo parlor, not getting one, and looking for my shipmates, my steaming buddies. They're nowhere to be found, and I stumbled back to the boat, hung over, just playing. Oh, bam! I fall asleep, get up in the next morning, and there's some hangover. Oh shit! Oh boy! And there's John Gardner, my best buddy, my steaming buddy, Portland, Oregon, John Gardner. And he's sitting there nursing his hangover and looking at a big patch on his arm. I'm going, "John, hey, what'd you get, man?" "I don't know yet." Never get a tattoo when you're drunk. Then the old salts will tell you, well, if you do hook up with some mama-san and you go home for an all-nighter, not a short time, long time, make sure, if you go home with her, never let her put your pants on the door, okay, when you get undressed. So you get in her room and you get stripped down, don't let her take your pants and hang them on the door. Because then you climb into bed and do your duty, and you fall asleep sometime in the night. The door will open, and a hand will come in from Mama-san, or Papa-san, or a brother, or her husband. Grab your pants off the hook, take your wallet out, take all the money out with just enough for you to get back to the base left in your wallet. Put it back on the hook. So you get up the next morning, and you hang over, you get dressed, you give her a kiss, I'll see you next time I'm in port, you head off, you get back to the boat, and you look in your wallet, and you're lighter by that much. So if you take anything away from this performance tonight, remember that. My gift to you. So we finally get our bottom all welded up, and we go back out and start doing our submarine duty. Now, submarines are sneaky, pernicious pirates here. You know, that's what they are. They're ungodly, unholy, unfair, un-English. You know, they're not fair. Okay? But everybody's got one, so we got to have one too. And what you do is you go out and you do some stuff. You do some secret stuff. Now, we went to Yankee Station off Vietnam and waited for down flyers. We did that for a while. But then we also went up and did what we call blind man's bluff shit. You know, if you ever read that book, Blind Man's Bluff, great book about the Cold War submarine exploits. That'll scare the shit out of you, what happened there. And we were part of that, because we were sneaking in off China. China in 1966 was not our friend, or our debtor. No, what's the opposite of debtor? Creditor, thank you, yeah. They didn't own half of us at that time. They were kind of our enemy. So what we did was we snuck in to Shanghai. Shanghai's a nice big port, and what we do, we sneak in at night. And we did this cruise, and it took 55 days. Most of it spent underwater, with a little bit of, the only time we stuck up snorkel masts to breathe. It was 55 days at sea, underwater, in the tube, sneaking into Shanghai at night. You get in close and you stick up some electronic masts and some photographs, and you take pictures and you take readings of their radar stations and radio stations, and you triangulate and you map them down, and then in the daytime you'd sneak back out. Now, you know, China was claiming 200-mile limit, you know, but there's only a 20 or 12-mile limit, you know, internationally, but no, China's claiming 200, so they knew we were there, and they'd come out looking for us. So we come out in deep water so we could have a place to hide. We'd stick up our snorkel, charge the batteries again, and charge the air banks, and the Chinese boats would be coming out there looking for us, and just like in the movies. Ping, ping. They'd be looking for us in the deep water. You can hear them overhead. Ping. And what they do is they throw little hand grenades over. Just hand grenade wouldn't damage us, but it's kind of like saying, we know you're down there, round eye. Ping. Just throwing hand grenades at us. You can hear them in the distance, because they weren't that good with their sonar. Ping. And they were fucking with us. We'd hide from them. Ping. They'd go away, and then at night we'd sneak back in again, take some more pictures. 55 days. And inside a submarine, it smells like, now they're diesel boats. They got tanks of diesel fuel all over, so there's lots of diesel lines, and they're all leaking, so the bilge is full of diesel. So your primary note, olfactory-wise, is diesel. Now, nobody takes a shower. We don't have enough water on board. You only have enough water for the batteries and cooking and drinking. Now, the captain can shower every day. Pharmacist mate can shower every day. He keeps himself clean. The cooks shower every day. They keep themselves clean. But us, no showers. Can't shower, can't shave. Okay? Brush your teeth, and that's it. So everybody's starting to smell ripe after about 30 days of this. Okay? And then there's the mildew. There's the rot. And then there's just smells that would turn, after 30 days, your nose just takes a walk. Just goes away. You don't smell anything. And you're basically going from your job in the engine room We're up in the control room, you have some food. Now food, they say, oh, food, best food in the Navy on submarines. Yeah, fuck that. For 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, out at sea, all the fresh stuff's gone. You're down to powdered eggs, powdered coffee, powdered milk, powdered meat, powdered water. Just add water. Close the... Yeah. Food's crappy, just eat it just to stay alive. And then you're in your rack and you're trying to sleep, or you're qualifying, you're still qualifying, still trying to find out that hydraulic system. And you go and you ask the chief to get signed off this one last signature, and he goes, okay, you see that valve down there? Okay, if I turn that valve down there that way, okay, and waited 10 minutes, what would happen? What? I've never seen that valve in my life. And so now you're on another hunt looking for where the hell that thing goes. And you got to learn how to do a lot of shit out the whistle. Now you got a sanitary tank where everybody's pooping and crapping, okay? And you empty that with high pressure air. And the whistle and the sail is also high pressure air. So conceivably you can cross connect the whistle with the right turning of the valves to the sanitary tank, and you can pressurize the sanitary tank and blow the shit out the whistle. Trick question. The sanitary tank. Now the sanitary tank, you crap and you piss in that, and then when it's full, then you pressurize it and you open up this valve in the bottom and you blow all that crap out to sea, and then you close that valve and then you vent that air off, and then you're ready to use the tank again. You can use the john, use the head. But when you're underwater off China and you don't want to give away your position with those bubbles, if the sanitary tank is full and you're underwater, you have to flush it, but then you got to vent it. Now you can't vent it outboard into the atmosphere. See it coming? Yeah, grab your nose. Stand by to vent sanitary tanks inboard. The old salts take out their rags, start dumping aqua valve on there, wrap it around their head, and whoosh. It's like you're at a Ren Fair or at Burning Man or something like that, living in a porta potty. Yes. So through 55 days of that, we're like zombies. We're like zombies going back and forth, and people just turned. You'd think I'd remember more about that particular part of my Navy experience, but it's pretty much a blank, except for that sanitary tank. Then back into town, back into Yokosuka. Sasebo was a great town, southern port. They had a jazz bar there. The Japanese loved jazz. There was a place called the Downbeat in Sasebo. It was the only bar that the hookers wouldn't bother you. So you can go into this place and you don't have much money. You can just afford a little sake or tea and sit there and listen to this guy's jazz collection. And he had met everybody in the jazz world. There's him with Charlie Parker. There's him with Stan Getz. There's him with everybody. And you could request jazz music, and it was a sanctuary, Sasebo. So you hang out there all the time. Back there, and I finally got qualified. Finally answered all the questions, and got to be qualified. And what your shipmates do, captain at quarters on the deck, they'll pin the dolphins on you, and then your shipmates throw you in the harbor. Slimy, dirty, smelly harbor. And then at night they take you out to a bar and you celebrate. Now you take your dolphins, they take your dolphins off, and what they do in the bar is they take the biggest brandy sniffer they can find in the bar. Now if you're lucky, they go behind the bar and they'll take a shot of everything. A little bit of that, oh, a little bit of that, oh, some cream of mint, oh, some vodka, oh, some whiskey, oh, some wine, oh, and they fill it up about halfway full, and they take your dolphins, you drop them in there, and then you're supposed to drink, chug-a-lug, and catch the dolphins in your teeth. Okay, and if you do that, you've made it. And the whole place goes, and they got a klaxon horn, and they go, oh God, and everybody goes, submariners once. Submariners twice. Holy fucking Jesus Christ. We go up, we go down, we don't even fuck around. Submariners! Ah! Then you go looking for a fight. Pick out some jarheads or something, or skimmers or Airedales. You can't find them, you start fighting with each other. Now, if you're not lucky with that brandy sniffer, they don't go behind the bar, they go out in the house. They go from table to table. Well, what's that? What's left over is some Akadama wine. Ooh, a beer with a cigar in it. Something there. Who knows what that is? Then drop your dolphins in. And so catching the dolphins in the teeth is not a foregone conclusion. So I'm done with that. I'm qualified now. And you'd think I'd be feeling great. You'd think I'm joining this elite group, this vanishing race, this vanishing tribe of diesel boat sailors. They're being phased out. They'll be gone within 10 years. And I got to hang out with them. I got to go steaming with them, fighting with them. And I should be happy. I should be happy, but no, I'm rocking and rolling with the motion of the ocean, 3 hours into a 6-hour watch. And I'm pissed and hot and bored, and I'm wondering how the fuck I got here. Now, as an engineer, now I learned steam mechanics, how to turn turbines with steam, hot water and steam. And I'm tending this diesel engine, which is internal combustion, so I had to learn that. What I did was basic stuff, so I learned how to take care of this big monster here. And you're standing in an engine room, and there's these pistons, boom, going like this, diesel oil exploding in between. And doing this thing called the internal combustion dance. Now, the internal combustion is the god, is the basis of our society. Nothing works. Nothing goes on without internal combustion. Oh, well, I don't have a car. Fuck you. How'd your clothes get to you? How'd your food get to you? Huh? I have a bike. How'd your bike get to you? Some truck brought it to you. Internal combustion. Internal combustion brought everything to us. Internal combustion is what's making this thing go round. For now. And that thing is a dance. Those pistons pull apart, valves open up, intake. A little burst of diesel oil going in there. Pistons closed, the valves closed, the pistons come together, compression, and the thing ignites. Boom, power, it drives those pistons apart, it pushes that energy into the crankshaft, which drives either a screw or drives a generator, which makes electricity, which drives the motor. Intake, compression, power, and then it squeezes together, another valve opens up, and it exhausts that exhaust gas. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust. Everybody do it with me now. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust. And it sounds like this. Ah! 8 to 12 hours a day. Muffler. We got no stinking mufflers. So you're standing, I got earplugs in, I'm standing in the heat, and in this cacophony of sound, this roar of sound, I am trained to listen for the abnormalities. Something abnormal in this. So here I am, we're running on the surface, everything's running, and all of a sudden you can feel it. All of a sudden you snap out of your little daze and you look up, standing under this little down blower of cool air, sea air. Outside here it's 120 degrees, here it's tolerable. And you look up and there's the chief, he's down at the other end of the engine room, and he's sniffing around. He's walking around, he's standing like this, he's listening. And you can feel it too, there's something going on. There's a little something different in this noise. There's something, a quiver. And he's looking at me and he sends me down in the bilge. I gotta open up the deck plates and climb under the bilge, a hot, smelly bilge, put my hands on different parts of the engine looking for that vibration, the telltale vibration of bearing going bad. Something, a rod's getting ready to throw, or something's going wrong. I come up and I go, nothing down there, Chief. And he's looking at me. And we look through the after hatch into the after engine room, number 3 and 4 running. You can see those guys, they're running around too. They're looking for something. And now it's getting a little bit bigger. This noise has got an extra noise to it. Something happening over here. And there's quality to it. Everybody's starting to run around. Then you can see a mad dash in the after engine room. They're shutting down number 3. Well, they're trying to shut down number 3. And they're closing its intake, turning off its fuel, and they're still looking at each other. And we're watching them, and they got a guy under the end of the deck plates, and he's turning off the main fuel valve, and he comes up and he's throwing his hands up in the air, and suddenly you still feel it. And now the whole boat is shaking. The whole boat starting to vibrate. The deck plates are starting to bounce up and down. The coffee cups are rattling in their holders. And you start to hear now this odd, abnormal noise is now taking over the normal noise. We'll have the whole boat shaking like it's on a blender, stuck on mean, and we're just like pieces of meat stuck inside this thing. And you could see in slow motion the chief dives through the after hatch into the motor room, and then the motorman, he dives in our hatch, and he closes the hatch, and he dogs it down, and he steps back away from it like he's waiting for something like an alien to come through. The deadlight there's like, holy shit. And the boat's shaking and screaming. And all of a sudden, it chokes itself off and dies. Now what had happened was a runaway diesel engine. Number 3, every these engines are 1930s design. They got a governor. You dial in the RPM, 600 RPM full speed. There's a governor. It's got 2 balls on the end of these little swing arms like this, and it spins around. And you'd adjust that, and those 2 balls adjust this little stem that goes down into a valve and allows the fuel to go to the engine. Well, a little pin inside this governor. Now you trust your engineering, right? Every time you get in your car, turn the car key, you're trusting the engineering. You're trusting somebody knows what they're doing, putting it together. You're trusting somebody knows what they're doing when they take it apart and put it back together. You're trusting the guy who dug the ore out of the ground, the guy who smelted the steel, that they did the right thing. You're trusting a whole army of people that go way back, that what happens in this little thing here is to specs. It's going to work. Every time you get in an elevator, every time you get on an escalator, you put a lot of trust in engineering. Well, a 2-bit piece of metal, a little cotter key, a nickel's worth of metal, ting, broke off. It was probably there since 1935, doing its job. But when it broke off, this governor failed. It means it just kind of like, these things swung out and pulled this valve stem up, and all the fuel this engine wanted, it could have. And they tried to turn it off. They turned it, but it's too late. It got up to 600, 700, 800, 900. It pegged itself on the red line. And now these cylinders are going so fast, it's sucking its own, the vacuum is so strong, it's sucking, the fuel oil's gone. They turned the fuel oil off, but it's too late. The vacuum is so strong, it's sucking the lubricating oil up out of the sump. It's running on its own blood. Going faster and faster and faster and faster. Some guy knew what to do up in the control room, and they closed the engine off, and they turned off all the air, and they sucked in. The guys got out and choked itself off and died before it could do any damage. It did burn out every bearing and a crankshaft from here to the wall, and they had to fix it at sea, and they had the spare parts. Runaway diesel engine. Almost took the boat, but we were lucky. Oh yeah, so these guys are working, so they're standing watch on number 4 back aft, and then they're working on number 3. That means tearing the whole fucking thing apart. They got this huge crankshaft sitting in the pathway, and everybody has to go fore and aft to climb over this crankshaft. And these guys working extra hours, and the pharmacist mate would come by with the little pills. He'd hand out the little pills. Getting tired? Okay. Start handing out the pills to the guys working on the engine, and the old salt would say, don't take the whole thing. You just take a bite. You can't stay awake anymore, you take a bite of this pill. Okay? Keep you going. And so it's like this, and you can keep yourself going. And so they rebuilt that engine in a couple of weeks at sea. And then they crashed for about 4 days. So, we're done with that. Our extension's done. We're heading home. I'm qualified. Had a great time. Had an adventure. Had a real adventure. Fights, fires, running aground, women, bars, tattoos. Classic. It's beautiful. But now I'm headed off to my future. I'm going to the nuclear Navy now. So here we are, on the surface, heading back to Pearl Harbor. Everybody's kind of feeling good now. That 6 months had turned into 9 months, so everybody's relieved. We're headed back home. I'm up on deck, sunning myself before I have to go down in the engine room, stand watch again. And it's a beautiful day. Clouds, water splashing over the bow, engines roaring back after we're charging east to Pearl Harbor. And I'm sitting there on the deck, and a guy comes up to join me, a guy named Arden. He was a sonarman. Arden was a kind of a character. He's a poet. Talked about submarine duty as being like in an atmosphere, inside an atmosphere, inside an atmosphere, inside an atmosphere. And he pulls out a harmonica, and he could play some cool licks on a harmonica. He started playing his harmonica. Playing his harmonica. And all of a sudden I felt this little fear. This little fear quiver in my legs. It's a little strange, uncomfortable, something in my legs, a vibration. He's playing a harmonica, and I can feel it go up in my legs a little bit more. It's up to my spine. And this thing's running up my spine. I don't know what it is. Is it a seizure? What the hell is this? What the hell is this? And it goes up my spine, and it runs up my spine, and it's expanding. It's expanding up my spine. It expands up into my head, and it blows the top of my head off in sheer joy, happiness, a moment of perfection. I'm gasping for breath. He's playing a harmonica, the engines are on, the officer of the deck says, everybody lay below, it's getting a little rough. I had to climb back down into that smelly tube, into the tube, back into the smells, and I can't talk. I'm still quivering, the whole inside of my body is vibrating. My head is just aglow inside. I can't stop smiling, and I don't know why. Am I going mad? I go stand back in the engine room, and I can't talk to anybody. It's lucky there's too much noise, nobody can talk anyway, so I'm just standing there, kind of waiting for this to pass. It takes hours, and it finally goes away. It wasn't until later, college, GI Bill, psychology class, a book, Alexander Maslow, the incarnation of being, I can't remember the exact name, what was it? Talks about a peak experience, a moment of perfection in your life, as when you have achieved a dream. I had achieved my little boyhood dream of chasing the dragon over the horizon, having some adventures. I had achieved that dream, and that harmonica somehow set off the kundalini energy that ran up my spine and gave me that orgasmic, powerful, I mean, even drugs haven't come close to what that did, that moment of perfection in my life. It just blew me away. And I didn't know, I couldn't tell anybody. For years, I didn't know what it was until I found that book. Then I find out that, well, that's supposed to, you got dreams, and sometimes you're lucky you get them answered. Sometimes you don't. But if you could get them answered, then, well, that's not done. You got to go find another one. You got to go work on another dream. You got to go conjure up another road, another direction, make some more decisions. So I did that. I got out, got to go to the nuclear Navy, and I found out there I was not meant for that. And got out of the Navy and made some choices. Went to school in the GI Bill, made some decisions that put me on a road that brought me here to stand in front of you and tell you my tale. Thank you.